Hey everyone, Sean Smith here with Dedicated Commercial Recovery in Roseville, Minnesota. I'm the founder and CEO, continuing our Giving Collector interview series with Jesse Johnson, who is the Vice President of Sales and Marketing with JDR Solutions, correct? And
That's correct, Sean.
thanks for joining us on the show. And wondering if you would just mind starting out, just giving your background. You're known as a leader in the equipment finance industry. I think from my perspective, especially in the technology side of things, and I think it'd be great to just share your background and kind of how you came to where you're at now.
Sure, Sean, and thanks for having me, man. Been watching several of your vlogs. You're one of the first people to come up with these things. So great content, man. So happy to be on your show here.
Just stealing it from other people, so
No, it's fantastic. Actually, I get a little jealous when I see like the lightning and the different things kind of come in. It's like watching Kramer's Money Round. I'm like, yeah, I'm a simpleton. I can't.
Taylor, our marketing gal, makes me look way better at marketing than I actually am. So the compliments go to her. She's wonderful.
But a little bit about myself. I started off in the equipment finance industry in 2005 with a company named OSG. At that time, they had one leasing customer. So I think they were worth about 20 grand a month in recurring revenue. I was 23 and they're like, here you go, kid. Here's a leasing list. Go have fun. 7 years later, that grew into about 3 million in recurring revenue, for that organization. And, I was kind of like, okay, well, what's next? We had different partnerships with different software platforms. At that time, LTI was, really customer focused, had a great relationship with, good reputation in the industry as well. So I was like, all right, they're about to launch a new end-to-end platform. Let's do this. So I was with them from 2010 to almost 10 years. And then I joined JDR December of last year. So, throughout my time in the industry, I've always found that when you meet people, ask the questions, establish the relationship, ask them what they did to be successful, and then kind of, you don't necessarily need to copy that success, Sean, but understand it, learn it, and then go apply it. And that's helped me.
I think we know enough people in the industry that if we tried to copy them, that would be a very interesting situation. The finance industry definitely has some interesting caricature,
Yes.
As I say. So I agree. Be the best you, but learn from. I tried to come in and we talked about on your fireside chat, which for everyone who doesn't know, Jesse puts on a regular fireside chat. So be sure to follow him on social media, on LinkedIn. And, thank you for having me on that as well. It was wonderful. Yeah. Love the cat cameo. That made my day for sure. I'm just waiting until we get the animal cameo here. But
yeah, well, you know what? You said something, Sean.
Yes. Yes. Oh, he looks exceptionally happy today, I think.
She must have heard you.
Yeah, she started to turn though. As soon as she had to look at me, she's like, "All right, I'm not happy now."
He grabbed me.
So thank you. I appreciate it. It's just I talked about it, man. I remember first meeting you at the Long Beach NEFA conference about 6 years ago, and you want to be confident in what you do, but I really did try to come in with my hat in my hand and say, hey, I don't know this industry, as far as these trade shows. I come from the ops side. So, they let me out of the cage and put me in front of people. And, it was something where I remember you and some of our close friends in the industry were really the type of people who put their arm around me and say, hey, here, let me show you the ropes. And that's one of the things I love about NEFA. It's just such a welcoming bunch to say, hey, let me show you. And as long as you don't, as they say, pet the cat backwards, you can do really well in associations like that. And I think that's a great point of coming in and learning from other people. And I know I was able to do that with you. So I appreciate that. And so let me ask you this. So when you made the decision to kind of start in the industry, why did you go down the technology route? Like what was it about that to you that kind of put you on that track?
Well, I was trying to figure out, I mean, so as that conference in Long Beach, my first conference that I attended in 2005 was the ELFA in Boca, where it was a hurricane.
Oh, wow, that's a
So
memorable
as much
start.
as that was an unfortunate event, it actually helped me because I got to be with people like Valerie Jester, Bob Rinaldi, and they actually walked me around and introduced me to everything. So kind of like our situation was similar, just I think maybe 6 years previously. So, without that help, I mean, would I have been successful in the industry? I don't know, but I attribute a lot of that success to just the open and the willingness of people to assist one another here. To answer your question, why did I go into technology? So OSG was a billing company, right? There's only so many people that need to have their invoices sent out. So it was a very kind of a finite market. I think we had about 60 customers that we signed in 7 years, and maybe there was a pool of maybe 100 at most.
Wow.
So it's kind of one of those things where they were bought by a different company. Well, they didn't bought; they just had a leadership turnover, and they went from being focused on the customer to more revenue centric. One of the reasons that I enjoy the relationship selling is doing always what's best by the customer, right? Even if it requires a step back, it's eventually going to, pay forward in the long term. So that was kind of one of those things where I was like, like it's time for me to move on. And, software sales can be a very, same relationships, staying in the industry. And, that's why I kind of went down that route because, selling invoicing, you had to work with the technology and understand it, obviously understanding the nuts and bolts of a lease accounting platform is a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, it's, that's what you have teams for to help you out from a sales process perspective.
I think you touch on another important thing when it comes to working within these industries is it's all about relationships. And to me, relationships start with connection. They move from rapport and eventually end up at a true relationship. But at the core of a relationship is that, you care about the other person and what's best for them. That's what builds a true relationship. And I think that's why you see people cross over and they have the ability to cross over. But the only time I see that is it's a successful crossover is when they are a relationship focused person, not a here's how great our product is or that type of thing. And I see those fits work when it's way more about the relationship and helping out other people. At least that's my perception of the industry, because you see that the industry can be a little incestuous with where people move to, but the people that seem to thrive where they're at are the people that are those relationship focused people. So I think it's a great takeaway. How has your longevity in the industry affected kind of how you conduct business? So thinking about like when you started, I remember I get told frequently by people that give me little pats on the back, you've grown so much, and that's very fair. So it doesn't offend me at all. But how from your perspective, having this longevity in the industry, what advice would you give to someone who's new in the industry? We've kind of touched on the relationship management side, relationship focus, but what other advice could you give to them as far as how to thrive in, not just maybe in an equipment finance industry, but any industry that involves networking and connecting with clients?
Yeah, and that's a very valid point. And I owe a lot to OSG and LTI for the marketing efforts that were made at those organizations, because to be successful in this industry, COVID aside, right? Obviously we're coming out of that. What allowed for my success was the ability to get in front of people, to take them to lunch, take them to dinner, take them for a round of golf, take them to a sporting event. And if you don't have those marketing dollars behind you to establish those relationships, that can be problematic. Now, can you shift and find other creative ways to try to be memorable? Of course you can. And that's what I think that you and I have learned in the last 12 to 18 months is how do you, what do you do? How do you shift your formula when you can't do that to people? And I think that, you've been one of the more successful people that this pandemic hasn't bothered you at all. It's just like, let's rock and roll.
It's
So
been
my
an
advice
interesting
to,
ride for sure. It definitely initially really affected us, but we've been blessed to be on the backside of this to come out of it really well, as it just created an emphasis on what we do. You know, even if the portfolio went pretty well, it
yeah.
just kind of was like it rattled the tree a little bit to say, you know, we should really look at our work outside and how tight that is, you know, in case the portfolio goes on fire. But yeah, it's definitely it's been an interesting ride for sure.
And you know, to continue to answer your question there, you know, I joined NEFA, I think at the time it was EAEL, and I was on like a membership committee. Just get involved, because that's what some of these industry leaders told me. They're like, what you give in to these associations is what you get out of them. So, you
Yes.
know, I was on like the membership committee for the EAEL. Then when it was NEFA, I was on the board for I think 5 or 6 years. ELFA, Ops and Tech Committee, Service Provider Council for 4 years. Now I'm on the Communications Committee, and I tell Chelsea anytime you need me. So I think she has me on like 2 other subcommittees. You know, it's one of those things where does it take away from your day to day? Yeah, perhaps. However, I've been in sales for 16 years. If I'm talking on the phone with 10 industry peers, that's 10 additional contacts that I don't need to go dig up myself, right?
Yep. And
So,
relationship building time too, right?
yep, exactly. So, you know, other advice, I mean, just be memorable. If you're going to do something, do it, you know, do it right, you know, always do the right thing by other people. But be memorable, add a little twist on something, like do something that someone else isn't going to be willing to go above and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. You know, that's what we've tried to do as a company. So I relate to that, is stand out and be a one. You know, we've got 10,000 competitors in the United States, and that's shrunk by 20% over the last 10 years. So, I mean, in a shrinking, saturated market, you know, we wanted to stand out clearly for who we were. And I see that sometimes in the industry where people come in, whether they're a broker or they work at a funding source or a service provider, whatever it is, and they just kind of fit in like everybody else, and they're not doing anything to stand out and say, here's why I'm different, here's what I bring to the table. So I think that's a wonderful point, because you're competing in a sea full of people and companies,
Yeah.
right? And what stands out other than your product's great? Yep, that's what everybody says. You know, but like, what about it sticks out? Why is it different? Why are you different? Why, you know? And you know, so I think that's a great bit of advice. You know, I'd be interested to know, we've talked a little bit off camera about this, but, you know, as a leader in equipment finance, you know, what do you see for the future of the industry? You know, from your perspective, where do you see things going?
Yeah, I think the days of, I think core competency, that is probably a good buzzword here, where people like the end-to-end lease accounting platforms are like done, in my opinion. Like you just need to have a product. So for like, let's take collections, for instance, right? People want a collection system. They want the best collection systems out there. Like that's it. They want to be able to bolt that onto a lease accounting platform. That lease accounting platform needs to hook into a CRM, Microsoft, Salesforce, whatever. So it's like best in breed solutions, to me, is where I see things going and what people are hinting at. So the days of just trying to be that best thing to everyone for organizations, I think they're going to struggle with that, Sean, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I agree.
So it's like figure out what you're good at, perfect it, and then figure out the best way to make your customers happy.
It's great. I'd be interested to know. So, as we've kind of talked to you about your background and technology, you know, so how does it tie in? You accepted this new role at JDR, and you know, you're bringing a big background in the equipment finance industry. You know, I'd be interested to tell people, you know, a little bit more about JDR and your role at JDR. You know, just be interested to know and really clearly understand what that is.
Sure. So JDR has been around, I think in October, they make 20 years in business. They were predominantly known for a third-party servicing organization. Honestly, when I sold them Aspire 3 years ago, that's all I thought that they did. However, they have their own custom web division. It's basically all business process outsourcing. So as I was talking about with OSG, there was a finite number of people that could actually have enough invoices to qualify to be a prospect. At LTI, it was, how often do people switch accounting platforms? Can you even afford a lease accounting platform? At JDR, I mean, everything is wide open, because they can literally handle any front or back office. A lot of the stuff that we're doing now is consultative work with the bank, consolidations of systems. We have a talent pool of 400 years worth of lease accounting experience. So we just come in, help lead the projects, help write requirements, understand everything. Because these banks, in order to get those projects approved, they have to jump a lot of red tape, right? Jump through a lot of hoops. We kind of take that off the table and then just say, hey, there's an upgrade. Everything else, just let JDR handle it. And what that allows for me to do, Sean, is being in the industry for 15, 16 years. And everyone's a potential, customer that we can bring on and provide some assistance with. So
nice.
It's been very beneficial.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing and for the input. And, part of the reasons we want to do these interview series was just to highlight leaders in the industries that Dedicated serves and really hopefully add value. And I really feel like you've done that. So thank you for, investing your time in this interview series. And I think the people that watch us should have some great takeaways from this. So I hope they find value in that as well. And, what people may not know is Jesse and I were both very big fans of Laverne Gordon and what she does with Love Life Now, which is really fighting the epidemic that is domestic violence here in the United States. And she's someone who's also very active in the equipment finance industry. And we have put together an event. Jesse, your wife, has a publishing company who's helped Laverne launch her first book. So that's super exciting. And so from my perspective, I'd love for you to share yours because it's a different perspective, but we're doing an event on Wednesday, June 16th here in Minneapolis. It's through the National Equipment Finance Association, and it'll be an in-person and online event first that is focused on innovative culture. And so there'll be an in-person meeting here, or you can attend it online. And then we're going to do an open house and a book signing for Laverne here at Dedicated's new corporate office. We've expanded. We have this beautiful new office, which is great. And that'll be open for an hour. And then we're all going to go down to Britt's Pub, which is right in the heart of downtown Minneapolis. And we're going to rent out the roof. They have grass, rooftop bowling. It's a British pub. It's awesome. Great food, amazing view for Minneapolis. And we're also going to be doing some fundraising efforts. And every person that attends is going to get a book free for attending virtually or in person for Laverne's book. And just for supporting the event, we'll be doing some other fundraising. There'll be the opportunity to donate directly to her as well. But, thank you for being a part of that. I know it's just something we're both passionate about. She's such an amazing person. And I'm all about using business as a platform to do greater good and support good initiatives and have that be intrinsically, wound into everything we do. So, and I just appreciate you being a part of that and helping really bring that to life. You and I really put the whole event together and then connected with NEFA on it. They wanted to be a part of it. And I'm very excited about the steps NEFA is taking to really be active in those type of initiatives. So thank you for that. And, is there anything on that event that I'm maybe not thinking about that you could add?
No, and the fact that you're giving me too much credit for all the work that you've done. But no, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, that whole project kind of started off with a phone call that I made to Laverne last August regarding, hey, this is what my wife Brooke and I are doing. Do you want to be a part of it? And it was tough, man. I mean, when people come and they hear her story or what they get out of that book, I mean, it's gut wrenching. It makes you sick, quite frankly. And I've heard it a dozen times now, and it's still the same impact. And we need to make changes. Like, I have my little white ribbon thing on here. I took that pledge, and it's the stuff that she's doing. It's great. I mean, just need more awareness, and it speaks volumes to what you were able to do to get this event going, what NIFO was able to do. I have a little graphic behind me here. So
that's right there. So that's the view right there. Just right there.
Have you been lawn bowling before?
Yeah. It's a great time.
I have too. I mean, it's a little frustrating because it's like a weighted shuck. I think that's what it's called. And it's like once you get the hang of it, it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, thank you. And I couldn't agree more. When she used the word epidemic to me, that was just something that you just don't realize that word is so fitting until you really start to get the stats. And, I'll put in another plug for her. If you're watching this, check out lovelifenow.org and Laverne Gordon, truly an inspiration. And I think that's why people gravitate towards working with her, and why we both have, is just to support something that is so important. And for me personally, growing up and having to witness those type of things, so it's very motivating to me. So I appreciate your support of that as well. And it's just going to be excited to get back to in-person events. We're going to be outside that evening. It's June in Minnesota is beautiful. You're looking at 80-degree weather. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I call Minnesota kind of the most bipolar weather state in the union. So, I make no promises, but there is a backup plan if that doesn't work. Hopefully this COVID stuff continues to die down. People get vaccinated, things like that. So thank you. Thank you for Jesse for taking the time. Again, check out JD Art Solutions. Connect with Jesse on social media. He is adding a ton of value to the things he's doing right now. And I know there's additional things in the works where you're doing just a wonderful job with that, and really looking towards the future. And I think there is innovation is kind of a buzzword, if you will, but I think there's people who want to talk about innovation. There's people who want to invest the time, energy, and sweat equity into innovating and really looking at where we're going. And I know you're doing that. So, as well as JDR is. So thank you for being on the show, Jesse. I genuinely appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll sign off now. But as always, God bless. Thank you.